Do you even understand what's written here? Dr. Whitley's voice dripped with disdain as he looked down at the janitor standing before his whiteboard at 2 a.m. Really? A janitor understands advanced multivariable calculus? What happened next would send shockwaves through Harvard's prestigious mathematics department and change multiple lives forever. When Marcus Johnson picked up that marker in the empty classroom, he wasn't just solving an equation, he was challenging an entire system that had decided who he was the moment they saw his uniform. You were just what? Playing mathematician? The professor scoffed. But what the brilliant Dr. Whitley failed to understand was that mathematics doesn't care about credentials, only truth. How did a night janitor with no degree solve a problem that stumped doctoral candidates? What secret was he hiding? And when a powerful university donor discovers his talent, who will be left standing when the final equation is solved? This story will make you question everything you thought you knew about genius, opportunity, and who deserves a seat at the table. Dear viewer, if you are watching my story for the first time, I humbly request you write the location from where you are watching right now, subscribe this channel and press the bell icon now not to miss the notifications of my daily published news stories. Thank you, and let's dive into the full story. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Marcus Johnson pushed his mop across the polished floor of the Harvard Mathematics building. At 1:15 a.m., the halls were empty and silent, just how he preferred them. After 8 years as the night janitor, he developed a routine that allowed his mind to wander while his hands worked. Marcus glanced at his watch. He was ahead of schedule tonight, which meant he might get home in time to catch 4 hours of sleep before his morning shift at the convenience store. Being a single father working 2 jobs left little time for rest, but his son Darius was worth every sacrifice. As he approached the main lecture hall, he noticed light spilling from beneath the door. Professors often forgot to turn lights off, another part of his regular cleanup. Marcus pushed the door open with his cart and saw the massive whiteboard covered with equations. Dr. Richard Whitley's name was written in the corner, the notorious mathematics professor whose arrogance was as renowned as his intellect. Marcus had overheard students talking about him, how he'd assign nearly impossible problems and mock those who couldn't solve them. Marcus stared at the complex calculus equation that dominated the board, with a note underneath, "For my graduate students, solve by tomorrow if you can." He continued cleaning, stealing glances at the problem between mopping sections of the floor. There was something about the way the equation was structured that seemed familiar from the textbooks he'd read during lunch breaks. After finishing his duties, Marcus stood before the whiteboard, drawn to the challenge like a moth to flame. He picked up a marker, hesitated, then placed it back in the tray. He had work to complete first. An hour later, having finished the rest of his shift's assignments, Marcus returned to the empty classroom. The problem had been nagging at his mind, demanding attention. He picked up the blue marker again, and this time didn't put it down. "Let's see," he whispered to himself, "if I approach this from a different angle." His hand moved across the board with unexpected confidence, numbers and symbols flowing from the marker. Years of self-education through borrowed textbooks and free online courses guided his work as he lost himself in the elegant language of mathematics. In that moment, Marcus wasn't a janitor. He wasn't a man struggling to make ends meet. He was simply a mind engaged with a worthy problem, finding pathways through the wilderness of equations that others might have missed. He didn't hear the door open behind him. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" The sharp voice cut through Marcus's concentration. He turned to find Dr. Richard Whitley standing in the doorway, his tailored suit still impeccable despite the late hour, his face contorted in outrage. "Sir, Marcus began, suddenly aware of how this must look. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Dr. Whitley strode forward, his leather shoes clicking against the floor. "That problem was for my doctoral candidates. You've ruined it." Marcus stepped back from the board, his hand still clutching the marker. You were just what? Playing mathematician?" Dr. Whitley scoffed, looking Marcus up and down, taking in the gray janitor's uniform with visible disdain. "Do you even understand what's written here?" "Yes, sir, I do," Marcus said quietly. Dr. Whitley laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. "Really? A janitor understands advanced multivariable calculus. Perhaps you'd like to explain your methodology. Marcus hesitated, then pointed to the board. The traditional approach would be to use a parametric substitution, but I noticed there's a more elegant way if you transform the equation using a hyperbolic function, which simplifies. Enough. Dr. Whitley cut him off. Parroting terms you've overheard doesn't mean you understand the mathematics. Who put you up to this? Was it Professor Chen? Is this some kind of joke? From the hallway came the sound of approaching footsteps. A young woman with dark-rimmed glasses appeared in the doorway, a stack of books in her arms. Dr. Whitley. I was working late in the library and saw the lights on. Is everything okay? Ms. Rodriguez, Dr. Whitley acknowledged. Perfect timing. It seems our janitor fancies himself a mathematician. Claims he solved the problem I left for tomorrow's class. Sofia Rodriguez stepped into the room, her curious gaze moving from the professor to Marcus to the whiteboard covered in equations. Interesting approach, she murmured, squinting at the solution. Don't humor him, Ms. Rodriguez, Dr. Whitley snapped. He probably copied it from somewhere. Now, Mr. Johnson. Marcus Johnson, Marcus supplied. Mr. Johnson, I suggest you stick to cleaning floors and leave the mathematics to those qualified to handle it. Sophia's eyes widened slightly as she continued studying the board. But Dr. Whitley, this solution, that's enough, Ms. Rodriguez. Dr. Whitley turned to Marcus. Erase this immediately and return to your duties. And don't touch my work again. Is that clear? Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. Crystal clear, sir. As Dr. Whitley stormed out, Sophia lingered for a moment, her expression thoughtful. She opened her mouth as if to say something, then seemed to think better of it. With one last glance at the board, she followed the professor out. Alone again, Marcus stared at the equation he had solved. With a deep breath, he picked up the eraser and began wiping away his work, leaving no trace of his mathematical insight. But as he cleaned, a determination settled within him. He was tired of being invisible. It's absolutely brilliant, Professor Chen said, staring at the whiteboard the next morning. Whoever solved this approached it from an angle I wouldn't have considered. Dr. Richard Whitley stood at the back of the lecture hall, arms crossed over his chest, watching his graduate students cluster around the problem he'd left yesterday, the problem he'd ordered Marcus to erase. Apparently, the janitor had disobeyed him. The use of hyperbolic substitution here is elegant, Sofia Rodriguez commented, pointing to a section of the equation. Most people would have made this much more complicated. Dr. Whitley cleared his throat. While the solution is unconventional, I had expected you all to solve it using the standard methods I've taught you. But this is far more efficient, said James Coe, another graduate student. It reduces the computational steps by at least half. Who solved it, Dr. Whitley? Chen asked, turning to him. One of your colleagues. Dr. Whitley hesitated. He could almost see Marcus Johnson's face, hear his quiet voice explaining the approach. But acknowledging that a janitor had outperformed his doctoral candidates was unthinkable. It's not important who solved it, he said dismissively. What matters is understanding the methodology. From the corner of his eye, he noticed Sophia watching him intently, her expression unreadable. She had been there last night. She knew. Let's move on to today's actual lesson, Dr. Whitley announced, stepping to the front of the room. And someone erase that board, please. As a student moved to comply, Sophia raised her hand. Actually, Dr. Whitley, could we photograph the solution first? I'd like to study the approach more carefully. Several other students nodded in agreement. Fine, Dr. Whitley said tersely. But I want to emphasize that while this solution is correct, it's not necessarily the approach I recommend. After class, Sophia lingered, organizing her notes with deliberate slowness until the other students had filed out. Dr. Whitley was erasing the board himself, as if trying to remove all evidence of Marcus's brilliance. Dr. Whitley, she said finally. About last night, Ms. Rodriguez, he cut her off sharply. What happened last night was a fluke, nothing more. A fluke? Sophia's eyebrows rose. That solution demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of. What it demonstrated, Dr. Whitley interrupted, was someone getting lucky or copying from an obscure source. The janitor did not solve that problem. I think he did, Sophia said quietly. And I think you know he did. Dr. Whitley's face hardened. You're a promising student, Ms. Rodriguez, with a bright future ahead of you. I'd advise you not to waste your time or damage your reputation by pursuing this fantasy. Is that a threat, Professor? It's professional advice. He turned back to the board. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a faculty meeting to attend. Left alone in the classroom, Sophia pulled out her phone and looked at the photo she'd taken of the solution. There was something extraordinary about the mathematical insight it displayed, an intuitive leap that went beyond mere technical knowledge. As she was leaving the building, Sophia spotted a familiar figure in gray uniform mopping the corridor. Excuse me, she called out, approaching Marcus. Mr. Johnson, right? Marcus looked up, surprised that a graduate student knew his name. Yes. That solution you wrote last night, Sophia said quietly, glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard. It was brilliant. Thank you, Marcus replied cautiously. But according to Dr. Whitley, I should stick to cleaning floors. Dr. Whitley doesn't know everything, Sophia said with unexpected vehemence. Where did you learn mathematics like that? Before Marcus could answer, they heard voices approaching. Dr. Whitley and several faculty members rounded the corner, deep in conversation. I should get back to work, Marcus said, lowering his gaze and returning to his mop. As Sophia walked away, she heard Dr. Whitley's dismissive voice, completely ridiculous. The janitor solving an advanced calculus problem? Next you'll tell me the cafeteria lady is writing quantum physics papers. She watched Marcus grip his mop handle tighter, continuing his work without acknowledging the insult. But something in his posture, a subtle straightening of his shoulders, suggested that beneath his quiet exterior, a determination was building. For the first time in years, Marcus Johnson was wondering if it was time to step out of the shadows. Marcus opened the door to his small apartment as quietly as possible. It was just past 6 a.m., and he hoped Darius might still be sleeping. No such luck, the smell of microwaved oatmeal greeted him, along with the sight of his 15-year-old son hunched over the kitchen table, textbooks spread around him. Hey, Dad. Darius didn't look up from his math homework, his expression tense, one hand absently rubbing his lower back. Morning, son. Back bothering you again? Marcus hung his jacket on the hook by the door. Darius nodded, shifting uncomfortably in his chair. It's fine. But Marcus could see it wasn't fine. Ever since that incident with Ms. Winters 3 months ago, Darius had struggled with persistent pain, physical and emotional. Let me see what you're working on. Marcus moved behind his son, glancing at the algebra problems. Darius instinctively covered the paper with his arm. I got it. I know you do. Just want to help. Like you helped last time. When Ms. Winters said I was cheating because my solutions were too advanced for someone who couldn't even sit properly in class. The bitterness in Darius's voice cut through Marcus. The memory of that parent-teacher conference still made his blood boil. Ms. Winters, with her pinched expression, suggesting that Darius's refusal to sit at his desk was defiance rather than pain management. Ms. Winters doesn't understand your situation, Marcus said carefully. You mean she doesn't care? Darius winced as he straightened up. She knew exactly why I couldn't sit in that chair after what she did. The incident replayed in Marcus's mind. Darius, new to the school, had been standing at the back of the classroom, trying to ease his chronic back pain from an old injury. Ms. Winters had demanded he sit down like everyone else. When Darius tried to explain, she'd grabbed him by the shoulder, forcibly pushing him into a chair. The sudden movement had aggravated his existing condition, causing a painful muscle spasm that sent him to the nurse's office. Instead of apologizing, Ms. Winters had written him up for disruptive behavior. I've been meaning to talk to her again, Marcus said. Don't bother. Darius closed his math book. She already decided I'm trouble. And now she's failing me even though my answers are right. Marcus sat down across from his son. Show me. Reluctantly, Darius pushed his returned quiz across the table. Red marks slashed across correct calculations with notes like, show proper work, and, follow classroom methods. She marked these wrong because you solved them your way instead of hers, Marcus observed, anger rising. Same as you did with that professor's problem, right? Darius gave a small smile. I heard you come in late. Were you solving math problems again? Marcus hesitated. He hadn't told Darius about the incident with Dr. Whitley, but his son knew about his late-night studies. Something like that. Did they appreciate it? The question hung in the air, heavy with their shared experiences of being underestimated and dismissed. Not exactly, Marcus admitted. But that doesn't mean we stop trying. Darius rubbed his back again. I'm just tired of fighting, Dad. Tired of standing in the back of the room because it hurts to sit, tired of being the weird kid, tired of Ms. Winters looking at me like I'm nothing. Marcus reached across the table, placing his hand over his son's. You are not nothing. You're brilliant, and someday they'll see that. When? Darius asked, his voice small. I don't know, Marcus answered honestly. But until then, we keep going. We keep learning. We keep solving problems our way. Darius nodded slowly, then glanced at the clock. I should get ready for school. As his son gathered his books, Marcus remained at the table, thinking about Dr. Whitley's dismissal and Ms. Winters's cruelty. Different settings, same prejudice. How many doors would remain closed to his son if nothing changed? Dad? Darius paused at the hallway. Maybe it's time we stopped being invisible. Marcus looked up, surprised to hear his own thoughts echoed by his son. Maybe it is, he agreed quietly. Maybe it is. 3 days later, Marcus stood outside Dr. Whitley's office, his heart hammering in his chest. He'd spent his lunch break walking across campus to get here, rehearsing what he wanted to say. The door was open, but he hesitated at the threshold, suddenly aware of how out of place he looked in his convenience store uniform. Can I help you? Dr. Whitley looked up from his computer, not immediately recognizing Marcus without his janitor's clothes. Dr. Whitley, I'm Marcus Johnson. We met the other night when recognition dawned on the professor's face, followed by annoyance. The janitor. What do you want? I'm quite busy. I wanted to discuss the mathematical approach I used on your problem. Dr. Whitley's eyebrows rose. I thought I made myself clear. That incident is behind us. With all due respect, sir, I've been studying mathematics for years, and I believe my solution was valid. I'd like to understand why. Mr. Johnson, Dr. Whitley interrupted, his voice sharp. This is a prestigious institution. We have standards and protocols. You cannot simply wander in and demand academic discourse. I'm not demanding anything, Marcus said quietly. I'm asking for a conversation about mathematics. The professor leaned back in his chair, studying Marcus with narrowed eyes. Where did you attend university, Mr. Johnson? I didn't have that opportunity, but I've been self-studying for. Precisely. Dr. Whitley's smile was cold. You haven't had the formal training required to participate in these discussions. It would be like me attempting surgery after watching medical shows. From the hallway came the sound of voices. Several graduate students appeared, Sophia Rodriguez among them. Dr. Whitley, we had a question about. One of the students stopped short, seeing Marcus. Mr. Johnson was just leaving, Dr. Whitley announced. He seems to believe that solving one problem qualifies him to discuss advanced mathematics. Heat rose to Marcus's face. I never claimed. Perhaps you'd like to demonstrate your expertise. Dr. Whitley's voice took on a performative quality, playing to his audience. James here is defending his dissertation on Riemannian geometry next month. I'm sure he'd welcome your insights. The students exchanged uncomfortable glances. Sophia stepped forward slightly, her expression concerned. I just wanted to discuss my approach to your specific problem, Marcus said, maintaining his composure. And I'm explaining that without proper credentials, such discussions are pointless. Dr. Whitley stood. Now, I have a class to teach. Good day, Mr. Johnson. As the professor brushed past him, Marcus remained rooted to the spot, acutely aware of the graduate students watching this humiliation. He really doesn't like being shown up, Sophia said quietly after Dr. Whitley was out of earshot. Marcus turned to her, surprised by her sympathetic tone. Your solution was elegant, she continued. Several of us have been discussing it. Thank you, Marcus said simply, his dignity intact despite Dr. Whitley's dismissal. As he walked back across campus, his lunch break nearly over, Marcus made a decision. This wasn't just about him anymore. It was about Darius, and all the others who were silenced and dismissed. It was time to prove Dr. Whitley wrong. You want me to what? Marcus stared at Sofia Rodriguez in disbelief. They were standing in the dimly lit corridor of the mathematics building, his mop temporarily forgotten. Enter the Lowell mathematics competition, she repeated, her voice low despite the empty hallway. It's open to non-students, and the problems are exactly the kind you seem to excel at, creative, intuitive approaches to complex calculus. Why would you help me? Marcus asked cautiously. Sophia adjusted her glasses. Because what Dr. Whitley did wasn't right. And because that solution you wrote on the board was brilliant. Marcus leaned on his mop, considering. Even if I wanted to, when would I prepare? Between my 2 jobs and taking care of my son, I could help. Late nights, after your shift. I'm always here anyway. She pulled a folded paper from her bag. These are sample problems from previous years. Just, think about it. Before Marcus could respond, the door to the faculty lounge opened. Dr. Whitley emerged, talking with an elegant woman in her 50s whose authoritative posture marked her as someone important. The proofs need refinement, Richard, she was saying. The committee won't accept, she paused, noticing Sophia and Marcus. Good evening. Dr. Porter, Sophia nodded respectfully. This is Marcus Johnson. He's interested in the Lowell competition. Dr. Elaine Porter, department chair, looked at Marcus with mild curiosity. Are you a visiting scholar? Before Marcus could answer, Dr. Whitley interjected with a dismissive laugh. He's the janitor, Elaine. Ms. Rodriguez seems to have discovered his hidden mathematical talents. Dr. Porter's eyebrows rose slightly. Is that so? It's a charming fantasy, Dr. Whitley continued. Next we'll be entering the cafeteria staff in physics symposiums. Marcus felt anger rise in his chest, not for himself but for Darius, who faced the same prejudice from Ms. Winters. The parallel was too stark to ignore. I'd like to enter the competition, he said firmly. Dr. Whitley's smug expression faltered. You can't be serious. The competition is open to the public, Dr. Porter noted, her tone neutral. Anyone may register. But surely there are standards, Dr. Whitley protested. Prerequisites. Only the registration fee, Dr. Porter corrected him, which can be waived in certain circumstances. She studied Marcus thoughtfully. Though I must warn you, Mr. Johnson, the competition is extremely challenging. I understand, Marcus replied. Well then, Dr. Whitley's voice was cold, if our janitor wishes to embarrass himself publicly, who are we to stand in his way? He turned to Marcus with a tight smile. In fact, I'll make you a deal. If you place in the top 20, out of hundreds of entrants, mind you, I'll personally sponsor your registration in next year's International Mathematics Symposium. Richard, Dr. Porter warned. No, it's fair, Dr. Whitley insisted. If Mr. Johnson truly possesses mathematical genius, let him prove it. But when he fails, and he will fail, this disruption ends. The challenge hung in the air between them. Marcus thought of Darius, of Ms. Winters, of years spent learning in the margins of a system that never made space for people like them. I accept, Marcus said quietly. Excellent. Dr. Whitley's voice was triumphant. The competition is in 3 weeks. I suggest you start studying. As Dr. Whitley escorted Dr. Porter away, Sophia turned to Marcus. He's trying to set you up to fail. I know, Marcus replied. But for the first time, he's also given me a chance to succeed. Later that night, after finishing his shift, Marcus found Sophia waiting for him in the empty lecture hall, sample problems spread across a desk. The competition consists of 5 problems, she explained. You have 4 hours to solve them. They're designed to test not just knowledge, but creativity. Marcus sat down, pulling a worn notebook from his bag, years of self-taught mathematics, formulas copied from borrowed textbooks, problems solved during lunch breaks and late nights. Let's get started, he said. As they worked through the sample problems, a noise from the hallway made them both look up. Dr. Porter stood in the doorway, observing silently. Without a word, she placed a heavy textbook on the desk. Advanced Calculus of Several Variables, Marcus read the title. The library closes at 9, Dr. Porter said simply. My office does not. With a nod to them both, she left. Sophia smiled. Looks like Dr. Whitley doesn't speak for the entire department. Marcus opened the book reverently. 3 weeks isn't much time. Then we'd better make every minute count. Where did you learn all this? Sophia asked one night, watching Marcus work through a particularly challenging problem involving partial differential equations. They had been meeting after his shifts for 2 weeks now, and his facility with complex mathematics continued to amaze her. Marcus paused, tapping his pencil against the notebook. They were sitting in the university library's far corner, surrounded by stacks of advanced textbooks Dr. Porter had quietly made available to them. Here and there, he replied vaguely. You pick things up. No, Sophia shook her head. Nobody picks up Fourier analysis and multivariable calculus. That's like saying you picked up concert piano or neurosurgery. Marcus smiled faintly, closing his notebook. I was good at math in high school. Very good. Had a teacher who noticed, gave me extra problems, advanced books. And then life happened. He glanced at the clock, almost midnight. I should get home to check on Darius. Your son, Sophia remembered. You mentioned he's having problems at school. Something in Marcus's expression shifted. His math teacher, she reminds me of Dr. Whitley. Decided who he was the moment she saw him. What happened? Marcus hesitated, then explained about Ms. Winters, the back injury, the humiliation Darius endured daily. That's awful, Sophia said when he finished. Has the school done anything? The same thing Harvard did when I tried to talk to Dr. Whitley. They decided which version of reality they preferred. Sophia was quiet for a moment. You never finished telling me how you learned advanced mathematics. Marcus sighed, leaning back in his chair. I had a full scholarship to MIT. Full ride, everything covered. MIT? Sophia couldn't hide her surprise. But how did I end up a janitor? Marcus's smile held no bitterness, just resignation. My mother got sick my freshman year. Cancer. I was all she had, so I went home to take care of her. Thought I'd go back after, but... He shrugged. Medical bills piled up. Then she passed, and I met Darius's mother, and suddenly I had a family to support. You couldn't return to school. I tried, part-time. But working 2 jobs, raising a child after his mother left, something had to give. He gestured to the books around them. So I studied when I could. Library books, online courses, whatever I could get my hands on. For 15 years, Sophia said softly, understanding dawning. You never stopped learning. Mathematics was my anchor, Marcus admitted. The one place where there was always a right answer, where it didn't matter who I was or what I looked like. Just whether the proof worked. And now Dr. Whitley is trying to take even that away. Not trying, Marcus corrected. Assuming he can. There's a difference. Sophia studied him for a moment. You're going to win this competition, aren't you? I'm going to try, Marcus said. But more importantly, I'm going to show Darius that we don't have to accept other people's limitations. As they packed up their materials, Sophia asked the question that had been on her mind. If you do well in the competition, what then? What do you really want, Marcus? He paused, considering. Recognition would be nice. Maybe some tutoring opportunities, a chance to finish my degree eventually. That's it? After all Dr. Whitley put you through? Marcus sipped his backpack, his expression resolute. What I want is for my son to see that knowledge can't be contained by prejudice. That systems can change. He smiled slightly. And maybe, just a little bit, I want to see Dr. Whitley's face when he realizes he's been proven wrong. As they walked out of the library, Sophia noticed a figure watching them from the shadows of the administrative building. Dr. Whitley, his expression unreadable in the darkness. I think we're being observed, she murmured. Good, Marcus replied. Let him watch. The competition is in 4 days. After that, he'll have to do more than watch, he'll have to acknowledge what's right in front of him. But as they parted ways, neither noticed the second observer, Dr. Porter, who had overheard their entire conversation from the adjacent study corral. Her thoughtful expression suggested wheels turning, plans forming. Change was coming to Harvard's mathematics department, one way or another. The day of the Lowell mathematics competition arrived cold and clear. Marcus had taken a rare day off from both jobs, explaining to his supervisors that it was for Darius's school event. A half-truth that sat uncomfortably with him, but necessary. You okay, Dad? Darius asked as they walked toward the Harvard campus together. You seem nervous. Just thinking about a problem, Marcus replied, adjusting his only tie, borrowed from a neighbor for the occasion. Math problem or life problem? Darius grinned. Both, I guess. Marcus stopped at the campus entrance. Listen, whatever happens in there today, I want you to remember something, there's always more than one way to solve a problem. Darius nodded, understanding the double meaning. Like standing instead of sitting when your back hurts. Exactly. Marcus squeezed his son's shoulder. And never let anyone tell you your solution doesn't count just because it's not the one they expected. The Thompson Hall auditorium was already buzzing with participants when they arrived, predominantly white males in their 20s, with a scattering of international students and a few women. Marcus felt conspicuously out of place as they checked in. Marcus Johnson. The registration attendant squinted at her list. Oh, you're the special entrant. Her emphasis on special made Darius bristle beside him. My father is a mathematician, the teenager said firmly. The woman blinked, taken aback by the direct challenge. Of course. Here's your entry packet, Mr. Johnson. Spectators can sit in the balcony section. As Darius headed upstairs, Marcus found his assigned seat. From across the room, he spotted Dr. Whitley with several colleagues, including Dr. Porter. The professor caught his eye and smirked, leaning to whisper something that made his companions laugh. All except Dr. Porter, who merely nodded politely in Marcus's direction. The head judge explained the rules, 5 problems of increasing difficulty, 4 hours to complete them. Partial credit would be awarded for valid approaches even if the final answer was incorrect. Begin, the judge announced, and the rustling of papers filled the hall. Marcus opened the test booklet and read the first problem. A straightforward differential equation, challenging but manageable. He worked through it methodically, the familiar calm of mathematics settling over him. The second problem was trickier, involving a series convergence that required careful manipulation. Marcus lost himself in the work, barely noticing as other competitors struggled around him. By the third problem, a complex integration requiring an unusual substitution, Marcus felt in his element. This was the kind of creative approach he excelled at, finding pathways others might miss. The fourth problem, however, stopped him cold. It involved a mathematical concept he'd never encountered in his self-study, something called Stokes' theorem in differential geometry. Marcus stared at it, panic rising. This was exactly what Dr. Whitley had expected, the limits of his informal education exposed. He glanced up, finding the professor watching him with satisfaction. This was the moment Marcus was supposed to give up. Instead, he closed his eyes, thinking about what Darius had said about standing instead of sitting. Different approach. Different perspective. When he opened his eyes again, he began writing, breaking the problem down into components he did understand, using first principles to derive what he needed. It was slow, painstaking work, but gradually, a solution emerged, unconventional but defensible. The final problem was a monster, a multi-part exploration of an abstract topological space. Marcus felt sweat beading on his forehead as he worked, aware of the clock ticking down. Around him, many competitors had already given up, some turning in their papers early with defeated expressions. With 15 minutes remaining, Marcus had a breakthrough. The seemingly disconnected parts of the problem snapped together in his mind, revealing an elegant unified solution. His hand raced across the paper, equations flowing from his pencil as he captured the insight before time ran out. 5 minutes remaining, the judge announced. Marcus finished writing the last step, then carefully reviewed his work. Not perfect, especially the fourth problem, but honest. His own solutions, derived his own way. Time is up. Please put down your pencils. As he handed in his booklet, Marcus caught sight of Darius in the balcony, giving him a thumbs up. Regardless of the outcome, he had shown his son something important today. Mr. Johnson. Dr. Whitley's voice stopped him at the exit. The professor stood with several colleagues, his expression unreadable. An admirable attempt, he said, his tone suggesting the opposite. Though I suspect you found the advanced topics rather impenetrable. Before Marcus could respond, another voice cut in. Actually, Richard, the judging committee has already done a preliminary review of Mr. Johnson's solutions. Dr. Porter stepped forward, holding a copy of Marcus's test booklet. His approach to problem 4 was particularly fascinating. Unorthodox, certainly, but mathematically sound. And his solution to the final problem. She turned to Marcus. Have you studied algebraic topology formally, Mr. Johnson? No, ma'am, Marcus admitted. Just what I could gather from library books. A murmur passed through the assembled academics. Well, Dr. Porter continued, the committee would like to speak with you further. It seems your solutions have caused quite a stir. Dr. Whitley's face had gone pale. Surely you're not suggesting. I'm not suggesting anything yet, Richard, Dr. Porter interrupted smoothly. But I believe you made a certain promise about sponsoring Mr. Johnson for the International Mathematics Symposium. That was if he placed in the top 20, Dr. Whitley sputtered. We don't have the results yet. No, Dr. Porter agreed, but preliminary scoring puts him comfortably in the top 5. The shock that crossed Dr. Whitley's face was everything Marcus had hoped for, but somehow, it didn't feel as satisfying as the pride shining in Darius's eyes as he came downstairs to join his father. Did you solve them your way? The teenager asked. Every single one, Marcus confirmed. Dr. Porter watched this exchange with interest. Mr. Johnson, would you and your son join us for the reception? There are several people from the department who would like to meet you. As they followed her into the faculty lounge, Marcus felt a weight lifting, not just from winning the competition, but from finally stepping out of the shadows. 1 week after the competition, Marcus found himself in unfamiliar territory, serving hors d'oeuvres at the Harvard Mathematics Department's annual fundraising gala while wearing a white server's jacket instead of his usual janitor's uniform. The official results had confirmed what Dr. Porter predicted. Marcus had placed 3rd overall, sending shockwaves through the academic community. Just smile and keep the trays moving, his supervisor instructed. These donor types don't want conversation, just champagne. Marcus nodded, balancing his tray of canapés while scanning the elegant ballroom. The contrast was stark. Wealthy donors in formal were mingling with professors in academic regalia, while service staff like himself moved invisibly between them. Dr. Whitley held court near the center of the room, surrounded by admirers. He had been avoiding Marcus since the competition results were announced, refusing to acknowledge his achievement or honor their agreement about the symposium sponsorship. "Excuse me." A voice interrupted Marcus's thoughts. "Aren't you the janitor who placed in the Lowell competition?" Marcus turned to find an elderly gentleman in an impeccably tailored tuxedo studying him with interest. "Yes, sir. Marcus Johnson. William Blackwood." The man extended his hand, an unusual gesture toward serving staff. "I've been hearing some interesting rumors about you, Mr. Johnson." Marcus shook his hand cautiously, aware of eyes turning toward them. "What kinds of rumors, sir?" "That a self-taught mathematician employed as a janitor outperformed doctoral candidates from 3 Ivy League universities." Blackwood's eyes twinkled. "And that certain members of the faculty are rather distressed about it." "I was fortunate to have studied the right topics," Marcus said modestly. Blackwood took a canopy from Marcus's tray. "I've donated to this department for 30 years, Mr. Johnson. My family name is on the building where you clean floors. Do you know why I support mathematics?" "For the prestige, sir." Marcus guessed. Blackwood laughed. "Good God, no. Because mathematics is the great equalizer. 2 + 2 = 4, regardless of who's doing the addition." He leaned closer. "Or who's writing the proof." Before Marcus could respond, Dr. Whitley approached, his smile tight. "William. I see you've met our staff." "Indeed," Blackwood replied. "We were just discussing mathematics." "A brief conversation, I'm sure," Dr. Whitley said dismissively. "Mr. Johnson has duties to attend to." Blackwood's eyebrows rose. "Really? I thought we might explore his solution to the final competition problem. Most creative approach I've seen in years." Dr. Whitley's smile faltered. "You've reviewed the competition problems?" "I fund them, Richard. Of course I review them." Blackwood turned back to Marcus. "Tell me, where did you study differential geometry?" "He didn't," Dr. Whitley interjected. "Mr. Johnson has no formal mathematical education. His performance in the competition was an anomaly, likely the result of—" "Let the man speak for himself," Blackwood interrupted sharply. Marcus set his tray down on a nearby table. "I studied from library books, sir. And more recently, with help from Sofia Rodriguez and some materials Dr. Porter made available to me." "Elaine." Dr. Whitley turned to look for the department chair, betrayal in his eyes. "Right here, Richard." Dr. Porter approached the group, champagne glass in hand. "Mr. Johnson has shown remarkable aptitude. I believe talent should be nurtured, regardless of its source." "A refreshing perspective," Blackwood commented. "Especially at Harvard." By now, a small crowd had gathered, drawn by the unusual sight of a server engaged in conversation with the department's largest donor. "Perhaps we could test this talent," Dr. Whitley suggested, desperation edging his voice. "A simple question." "An excellent idea," Blackwood agreed. "Mr. Johnson, if a twice differentiable function f satisfies f plus f equals 0, and we know that f, 0, equals 0 and f, pi/2, equals 1, what is f, pi?" A collective intake of breath rippled through the academic observers. Not a simple question at all. Marcus didn't hesitate. The function would be f, x, equals sin, x, so f, pi, would equal 0. Silence fell over the group. "Correct," Blackwood confirmed. "And how did you determine that?" "The differential equation f plus f equals 0 has the general solution f, x, equals a sine, x, plus b cosine, x," Marcus explained. "Given that f, 0, equals 0, we know b must be 0. And since f, pi/2, equals 1, we can determine that a equals 1. So f, x, equals sin, x, and sin, pi, equals 0. Dr. Whitley's face had gone from pale to crimson. A memorized response to a standard problem. "Then perhaps you prefer something original?" Blackwood suggested, his tone deceptively mild. A research question from your own field, Richard. Before Dr. Whitley could respond, Dr. Porter stepped in. I think Mr. Johnson has more than proven his mathematical abilities, William. The real question is what happens next. Indeed. Blackwood turned to Marcus. What do you want to happen next, Mr. Johnson? All eyes were on him, the invisible janitor suddenly the center of attention in a room full of academic elite. Marcus thought of Darius, of Ms. Winters, of all the barriers they had faced. Education, sir, he answered honestly. For myself, to finish what I started years ago. And for others like me, who have the ability but not the opportunity. Blackwood nodded slowly. A worthy goal. He turned to Dr. Porter. Elaine, I'd like to discuss establishing a new scholarship fund. For non-traditional students with exceptional mathematical aptitude. He glanced meaningfully at Dr. Whitley. With an emphasis on diversity. As Dr. Porter led Blackwood away to discuss details, Marcus found himself surrounded by curious faculty members and students, including Sophia, who had been watching from across the room. You did it, she whispered. You changed the equation. Looking at Dr. Whitley's retreating back, Marcus allowed himself a small smile. Not yet. But I've started the proof. You've caused quite a stir in my department, Mr. Johnson. Dr. Porter's office was smaller than Marcus had expected for a department chair, cozy rather than imposing, with bookshelves lining every wall and mathematical models hanging from the ceiling. 3 days after the gala, her unexpected invitation to meet had pulled him away from his janitorial duties. That wasn't my intention, Marcus replied, sitting stiffly in the visitor's chair. Wasn't it? Dr. Porter smiled slightly. Most people who enter prestigious mathematics competitions have some agenda. I just wanted to prove I could do it. To whom? Dr. Whitley? Yourself? She leaned forward. Your son. Marcus looked up sharply. You know about Darius? I make it my business to know about exceptional mathematical talent. Dr. Porter opened a folder on her desk. Especially when it appears to run in families. She turned the folder so Marcus could see its contents, Darius's school records, including math tests with perfect scores alongside disciplinary reports from Ms. Winters. How did you get these? Marcus asked, tension creeping into his voice. William Blackwood sits on the board of your son's school district. He was intrigued by what I told him about your situation. Dr. Porter removed her glasses. Your son is being systematically undervalued, just as you were. Were. Dr. Porter pulled another folder from her desk drawer. MIT Entrance Records, 2005. Marcus Johnson, perfect SAT score, full scholarship to study mathematics. She flipped a page. Withdrawal for family medical emergency, 2006. Application for readmission, 2008, denied due to funding limitations. The clinical summary of his shattered dreams hit Marcus like a physical blow. That was a long time ago. Not so long. Dr. Porter closed the folder. Mr. Johnson, do you know why I became department chair? The abrupt change of subject caught him off guard. No, ma'am. Because I was tired of watching brilliant minds excluded from academia for reasons that had nothing to do with their abilities. She stood, moving to the window. When I was a graduate student here, I was the only woman in my cohort. My advisor suggested I focus on teaching mathematics rather than creating it. She turned back to face him. I ignored him. Published 4 groundbreaking papers before receiving my doctorate. But I never forgot what it felt like to be dismissed, to have my potential underestimated. Is that why you helped me with the competition? I helped you because you deserve the chance to show what you know. She returned to her desk. And because Dr. Whitley has been blocking the department's diversity initiatives for years. Your success has complicated his position. Outside her office, voices approached, one of them unmistakably Dr. Whitley's. Dr. Porter raised an eyebrow but continued speaking at normal volume. William Blackwood was serious about that scholarship fund. He's prepared to endow chairs for non-traditional students who demonstrate exceptional ability. The footsteps outside slowed. I couldn't accept charity, Marcus said carefully. It's not charity, Mr. Johnson. It's investment in talent. Dr. Porter smiled as the door opened without a knock. Elaine, we need to discuss the... Dr. Whitley stopped mid-sentence, seeing Marcus. I wasn't aware you had a meeting. Richard, perfect timing. We were just discussing Mr. Johnson's future with the department. His future? Dr. Whitley's voice rose. Surely you're not suggesting that a man who placed third in the Lowell competition might have something to contribute to mathematical discourse? Yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. Dr. Whitley's jaw tightened. One competition doesn't erase years of missing formal education. No, Dr. Porter agreed, but it does raise questions about how we measure capability. She turned to Marcus. Mr. Johnson, would you excuse us? I believe Dr. Whitley and I need to have a department policy discussion. Marcus stood, nodding respectfully to both professors. As he reached the door, Dr. Whitley's cool voice stopped him. Mr. Johnson. I believe I owe you a symposium sponsorship. The word seemed physically painful for him to pronounce. Thank you, Professor, Marcus replied simply. I look forward to it. In the hallway outside, he found Sophia waiting, trying unsuccessfully to appear as though she hadn't been eavesdropping. That sounded promising, she said as they walked toward the building exit. It's a start, Marcus agreed. But there's something else I need to address first. Your son's teacher. Marcus nodded. Ms. Winters needs to understand that the old equations don't balance anymore. Back in Dr. Porter's office, raised voices echoed through the door. This is academic suicide, Elaine. You can't seriously be considering granting a janitorial staff member academic privileges. I'm considering recognizing talent wherever it appears, Richard. Something this institution claims to value in its mission statement. He has no degree. Neither did Ramanujan when Hardy recognized his genius, Dr. Porter countered. Mathematics has a long history of autodidacts making significant contributions. This is different and you know it. Yes, it is different. Because Mr. Johnson is black. Because he cleans floors instead of coming from wealth. Dr. Porter's voice sharpened. Or because he solved a problem you didn't think he could solve, using an approach you didn't teach. Silence fell between them. The department is changing, Richard. The question is whether you'll change with it, or be left behind. As Marcus exited the building into the bright afternoon sunlight, his phone buzzed with a text from Darius. Ms. Winters gave me detention again. Said my math solutions were showing off. His resolve hardened. One battle might be turning in his favor, but another was just beginning. Mr. Johnson, while I appreciate your concern, Darius's behavior has been consistently problematic. Ms. Karen Winters sat primly behind her desk, hands folded, her expression a mask of professional concern that didn't reach her eyes. His refusal to sit properly, his tendency to question my teaching methods. My son has documented back problems, Marcus interrupted. Which were exacerbated when you physically forced him into a chair. Ms. Winters bristled. I merely guided an insubordinate student. You pushed a child with a medical condition after he explained why he needed to stand. The principal, Dr. Hayes, shifted uncomfortably in his chair. This parent-teacher conference had quickly veered from standard procedure. Perhaps we should focus on Darius's academic performance, he suggested. Gladly, Marcus replied, pulling several papers from his folder. These are Darius's recent math assignments. Each one marked down despite having correct answers. Ms. Winters sniffed. Darius insists on using unconventional methods rather than following the techniques I've taught. This creates confusion and suggests a lack of proper understanding. Different approaches don't indicate misunderstanding, Marcus countered. In fact, they often demonstrate deeper comprehension. Mr. Johnson, with all due respect, I have a master's degree in mathematics education. I believe I understand what constitutes proper mathematical instruction. A knock at the door interrupted their standoff. Dr. Porter entered, her academic presence immediately filling the small office. "I apologize for being late," she said, extending her hand to the principal. "I'm Dr. Elaine Porter, Chair of Mathematics at Harvard University. Mr. Johnson asked if I might join this discussion as an academic advocate for Darius." Ms. Winters's expression flashed from confusion to alarm. "I wasn't aware this meeting would include outside parties." "Dr. Porter has been reviewing Darius's work," Marcus explained. As an expert in mathematical education at the university level, her perspective seemed valuable. Dr. Hayes straightened in his chair, clearly intimidated by the unexpected presence of a Harvard department chair. "Of course, we welcome Dr. Porter's input." "Thank you." Dr. Porter sat beside Marcus, opening her own folder. "I've analyzed Darius's problem-solving approaches on these assignments. What Ms. Winters calls unconventional are actually elegant solutions that demonstrate exceptional mathematical intuition." She laid out several examples, pointing to Darius's work. Here, instead of using the quadratic formula as instructed, he completed the square, a more advanced technique that shows deeper understanding of the underlying principles. The assignment specifically required using the quadratic formula, Ms. Winters insisted, her voice rising slightly. "Should we penalize students for exceeding expectations?" Dr. Porter asked mildly. "Following instructions is part of classroom assessment," Ms. Winters countered. "Indeed." Dr. Porter nodded. "But in mathematics education, we must distinguish between procedural compliance and conceptual understanding. The latter is far more valuable." Dr. Hayes cleared his throat. "Dr. Porter, while we appreciate your expertise, Ms. Winters has her own teaching methodology. A methodology that actively discourages mathematical creativity," Marcus noted. "And physically punishes a student with a documented medical condition." "That's an exaggeration," Ms. Winters protested. "Is it?" Dr. Porter placed another document on the table, a formal complaint filed with the school board detailing the incident that had injured Darius's back. "Where did you get that?" Dr. Hayes asked, alarmed. "William Blackwood, who sits on your district's Board of Education, brought several concerning incidents to my attention," Dr. Porter explained. "Including multiple complaints about Ms. Winters's treatment of mathematically gifted students, particularly students of color." Ms. Winters paled. "That's completely unfounded." "Statistical analysis suggests otherwise," Dr. Porter continued calmly. "Mr. Blackwood is particularly interested in the discrepancy between high standardized test scores and low classroom grades among certain demographic groups in Ms. Winters's classes." A heavy silence fell over the room. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Dr. Hayes asked carefully. "I'm suggesting that Darius Johnson deserves an educational environment that nurtures his mathematical talent rather than punishing it," Dr. Porter replied. "And that Ms. Winters might benefit from professional development in inclusive teaching practices." Ms. Winters's face flushed with anger. "You can't come in here and dictate how I teach my class." "No," Marcus agreed, his voice steady. "But we can ensure that my son receives fair treatment and appropriate accommodations for his medical condition. And we can request that his mathematical abilities be properly evaluated." Dr. Hayes, sensing the shifting power dynamic, nodded slowly. "Perhaps we should consider placing Darius in our advanced mathematics track." "That would be a start," Dr. Porter agreed. "Additionally, I'd like to offer Darius a place in Harvard's weekend enrichment program for mathematically gifted students." Ms. Winters's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. "And regarding his physical accommodations," Marcus added, "Darius needs to be allowed to stand when necessary, without penalty or humiliation." Dr. Hayes nodded, eager to resolve the situation before it escalated further. "Of course. We can arrange a standing desk immediately." As they finalized the details of Darius's new educational plan, Marcus caught Ms. Winters's resentful glare. But for the first time, her disapproval held no power over him or his son. Outside the school, Dr. Porter placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "Well done. You've secured Darius the opportunity he deserves." Thank you for your support, Marcus said sincerely. This means everything for his future. Speaking of futures, Dr. Porter replied, I believe we have more to discuss about yours. 6 months later, Marcus stood at the front of Lecture Hall B, watching students file in for the semester's first session of Introduction to Mathematical Thinking. His teaching assistant position, part of the special program Dr. Porter had created for him to complete his long-interrupted education, included leading this undergraduate section while pursuing his own studies. He adjusted his glasses, still not quite used to being on this side of the classroom. His janitor's uniform had been replaced by casual professional attire, though he still worked night shifts twice a week to supplement his academic stipend. From the back of the room, Sophia gave him an encouraging thumbs up. As a third-year doctoral candidate, she had volunteered to mentor him through his transition from maintenance staff to mathematics scholar. The door opened one last time, and Marcus's heart swelled with pride as Darius entered, taking a seat near the front. Now 16, his son had been granted special permission to attend this college course as part of his advanced placement program. The standing desk accommodations at his high school had been installed, and Ms. Winters had been reassigned to administrative duties pending review of her teaching practices. Welcome to Introduction to Mathematical Thinking, Marcus began, his voice steady and confident. My name is Marcus Johnson, and I'll be your instructor this semester. A murmur rippled through the room as several students recognized his name from recent articles about the Harvard janitor mathematician who had placed in the prestigious Lowell competition. In this course, we'll explore mathematics not just as a collection of formulas to memorize, but as a powerful way of approaching problems from multiple perspectives. From the doorway, Marcus spotted Dr. Whitley observing, his expression unreadable. The professor had kept his promise to sponsor Marcus for the International Mathematics Symposium, though their relationship remained cool and professional. Beside Dr. Whitley stood William Blackwood, whose newly established Pathways to Mathematical Excellence scholarship fund had already identified 3 promising students from disadvantaged backgrounds for the next academic year. Mathematics, Marcus continued, teaches us that there is often more than one valid approach to solving a problem. The elegance of a solution isn't determined by who discovers it or what path they took to get there. He made eye contact with Darius, who sat comfortably at his desk, back pain finally managed properly. It's determined by the underlying truth it reveals. Dr. Porter joined Blackwood and Dr. Whitley at the door, nodding in approval as Marcus engaged the students in a discussion about different ways to conceptualize mathematical infinity. The most valuable lesson mathematics taught me, Marcus told his attentive class, is that limitations often exist only in our perception. When we change how we look at a problem, new solutions become possible. He glanced again at his son, seeing in Darius's proud smile the future they had fought for, a future where talent would be recognized regardless of its source, where different approaches would be valued rather than dismissed. Let's begin, Marcus said, picking up a marker and turning to the board, the same board where, not so long ago, he had stood in the middle of the night, solving a problem no one expected him to understand. As he wrote the first equation, Marcus Johnson was no longer invisible. He had rewritten his own story, one elegant solution at a time. And as for Dr. Whitley, watching from the doorway, something had changed in his expression too. It wasn't exactly acceptance, not yet, but it was the beginning of understanding. Sometimes, the most profound mathematical insight was recognizing that you had been working with the wrong assumptions all along. As the classroom filled with the eager voices of students offering their ideas, Marcus caught Dr. Porter's eye. She nodded once, a silent acknowledgement of a theorem finally proven. Talent, like truth, could not be contained by prejudice. It would always find a way to shine. Dear friend, in a world that too often judges brilliance by credentials rather than capability, this story reminds us that genius can be found anywhere, sweeping floors, serving food, or standing at the back of a classroom due to pain others refuse to acknowledge. Every day, countless talented individuals are overlooked simply because they don't fit our narrow image of what intelligence looks like or where it comes from. Their potential remains untapped, their contributions lost. By challenging our assumptions about who belongs in academic spaces, who deserves recognition, and whose solutions count, we can build a more equitable future where talent isn't defined by privilege but by passion and perseverance. If this story moved you, Please like and subscribe to support more content that celebrates hidden brilliance and challenges us to see beyond our biases. Together, we can ensure that no more Marcus Johnsons are left cleaning whiteboards instead of writing on them.